The Billionaire's Naughty Wife, Chapter 2, A Deal with the Devil. Behind the glittering facade of Manhattan's most talked-about wedding lay a truth only two people knew. This wasn't love. Alexander Steele, the ruthless billionaire with a reputation for winning, had married Olivia Monroe for one reason: power. And Olivia? She wasn't some starry-eyed bride. She had her reasons too. Reasons she kept locked away behind that confident smile of hers. But the ink on their marriage certificate was barely dry when the cracks started to show. Olivia wasn't about to follow Alexander's carefully laid plans. And for the first time in his life, Alexander realized he might have met his match. Later that evening, after the wedding guests had left and the champagne glasses were empty, Alexander and Olivia faced each other in the privacy of his penthouse. The view of the city stretched out behind them, glittering and endless, but the tension in the room was sharp enough to cut through the air.
I assume you're aware that your little performance today didn't go unnoticed.
Olivia leaned back against the couch, her red lips curving into a smirk. She was still in her wedding dress, her bare feet tucked beneath her, as if she couldn't care less about the man towering over her. Oh, come on, Alexander, the crowd loved it. Admit it, I added a little spice to your boring party. His jaw tightened. Alexander Steele wasn't used to being mocked, especially not in his own home. But Olivia didn't seem to notice, or maybe she just didn't care. She reached for a glass of wine, swirling the dark liquid as if they were discussing art, not their marriage.
This isn't a game, Olivia. You knew the terms of our agreement. You're supposed to be my wife, not a headline.
Olivia's laugh was soft, almost musical, but there was nothing sweet about it. Your wife? Let's not forget, Alexander, this isn't a love story, this is business. You needed a wife to close your precious merger, and I needed a way to save my gallery. We both got what we wanted. The words hung in the air like a challenge. Alexander didn't flinch. Instead, he stepped closer, his presence dominating the room. But Olivia held her ground, meeting his gaze with the same fire that had drawn him to her in the first place.
You're right, this is business, and I expect you to play your part.
But Olivia wasn't the kind of woman who took orders, not even from a man like Alexander Steele. And what part is that exactly, the silent, obedient wife? Sorry, darling, but that's not who I am. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The city lights flickered outside the floor-to-ceiling windows, casting long shadows across the room. Alexander studied her, his sharp eyes narrowing. He had built an empire by controlling every detail, every variable. But Olivia was chaos, unpredictable and untamed, and he hated how much he wanted her because of it. Finally, he stepped back, running a hand through his perfectly styled hair. His voice was calmer now, but there was an edge to it, a warning.
I don't care what you do in private, Olivia, but in public you'll follow the rules, my rules.
Olivia's eyes flashed. She set down her wine glass, standing to face him. Despite the height difference, she made him feel as though she was looking down at him. Your rules, huh? Let me remind you, Alexander, you don't own me. We made a deal and I'm keeping my end of the bargain. But don't think for a second that you can control me. The room fell silent. For a moment, Alexander thought she might actually walk away, leaving him standing there like a fool. But instead, she brushed past him, her perfume lingering in the air like a taunt. Good night, husband, don't wait up. Alexander watched her disappear down the hall, her laughter echoing softly behind her. He clenched his fists, a slow smile tugging at the corner of his mouth despite himself. Olivia Monroe might have been a problem, but she was his problem now. They had made a deal, one that was supposed to benefit them both. But neither of them had counted on the sparks that would fly, or the battle of wills that had only just begun. Alexander Steele had spent his life bending the world to his will. But Olivia Monroe wasn't the kind of woman who could be bent. This wasn't just a marriage, it was a war, and it was far from over.